The first bang on the door shook the small room like a thunderclap. Sam jerked awake on the cold floor, his back stiff from the hard tiles. For a second, he did not remember where he was. Then everything rushed back: the thin mattress, the peeling blue paint on the wall, the small wooden table, the flickering bulb, and the girl on his bed. Natalia. She was still asleep, wrapped tightly in his only duvet, her face peaceful for the first time since he found her. A strand of her rough, tangled hair had fallen across her cheek. She looked younger like that, like a child who had finally escaped a bad dream. The banging came again. Louder. Bam! 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 "Open this door, now!" a deep voice shouted from outside. Sam's heart jumped. It was still early morning. The sky outside the tiny window was just beginning to turn grey. Who could be knocking like that? The landlord? The police? He scrambled to his feet, his body trembling. He looked at Natalia again. She did not move. "Who is there?" Sam called, trying to steady his voice. Silence. Then he heard heavy footsteps. More than one person. Boots. The sound made his chest tighten. He had grown up on the streets long enough to know that when many men moved like that, it usually meant trouble. He swallowed. "Please, who is there?" Another voice answered this time, calm, powerful, and used to giving orders. "Break the door." Before Sam could react, something heavy hit the door. The metal lock screamed. The thin wood shook so hard that dust fell from the top of the doorframe. Natalia stirred on the bed and slowly opened her eyes. "Sam," she whispered weakly, confusion clouding her face. "Stay there," he said quickly, raising a hand to signal her to remain calm. But his hand was shaking. His heart was pounding so loudly it almost drowned out the sound of the next impact. Bam! The lock cracked. Bam! The hinges groaned. On the third hit, the door flew open. Men in black security uniforms rushed in, their faces hard and serious. Behind them, standing tall in a simple but very expensive-looking shirt and trousers, was a man Sam had never seen before, but one look at him, and Sam knew he was rich. Very rich. There was something about his posture, his wristwatch, the way the guard stood slightly behind him, waiting for his command. The man's eyes moved around the small room once, took in the peeling paint, the broken fan, the small stove in the corner, and then landed on the bed. On Natalia. And everything in his face changed. "Natalia," he breathed, like the name had been locked inside his chest for a long time. The girl on the bed froze. Her eyes widened, and for a moment it looked like the whole world went quiet. Then she pushed the duvet away, swung her legs down, and stood up on shaky feet. "Daddy," she whispered. Sam stared in shock. She took one step, then another, and then suddenly she ran, straight into the arms of the stranger. As she collided with him, holding him tight, something seemed to snap inside her mind. Memories rushed in all at once. Bright lights, a black car, rough hands, a dirty warehouse, a door she ran through, the sound of shouting men behind her, and the cold floor in front of that small room. She began to sob. "Daddy, I remember. I remember everything." Sam stood there barefoot, still on the cold floor, watching the scene. His heart was beating so fast, it felt like he was not inside his own body anymore. The man, her father, held her close, one hand on the back of her head, his eyes wet but sharp. Then slowly he turned his gaze to Sam. His eyes dropped to the floor where Sam had slept, then moved to the bed where his daughter had been lying, wrapped in Sam's only duvet. He saw the half-empty loaf of bread on the table, the cheap tin of tea, the plastic cup, and the worn-out pair of shoes by the door. Something unreadable passed across his face. "Everyone out," he said quietly to the guards. "Wait outside." They obeyed at once, stepping back through the broken doorway. The room suddenly felt smaller, quieter, more dangerous. The man looked at Natalia again, then at Sam. "How," he said slowly, his voice low and controlled, "did my missing daughter end up in your room, on your bed?" The question hung in the air like a stone. Sam opened his mouth, but no words came out. He knew the truth. He knew what he had done and what he had not done. But looking at the broken door, the angry guards outside, the billionaire father holding his daughter, he suddenly realized how this looked. It looked very bad. His throat went dry. I... He tried to begin, but his voice failed. Natalia turned, wiping tears from her eyes. Daddy, he... But before she could speak, the man raised a hand gently to her. Wait, he said. His eyes stayed locked on Sam. I want to hear from him first. For a moment, Sam saw something in those eyes, power, pain, fear, and something else he could not name. This was not just any man. This was Anderson, billionaire CEO, owner of companies Sam had only heard about on the news. A man whose face he had seen once on a billboard near the bus stop. And now he was standing in Sam's tiny rented room, asking a question that could decide Sam's whole future. Sam took a deep breath. His hands were shaking, but he forced himself to raise his head and look straight into Anderson's eyes. To explain how they got here, he had to go back to where it all started. Back to the night his life changed. That night had been cold, the kind of cold that crawled under doors and settled in your bones. Sam had almost gone to bed hungry. The small nylon of Gary on his table was empty, and he had poured the last drops of water from his yellow plastic container. Outside, the compound was quiet, except for the distant sound of a generator and a baby crying somewhere far away. He stood at his small window, looking out at the dark street. The city was Lagos, but not the loud, bright part people posted on the internet. This was the forgotten area, old buildings, cracked roads, and tired people. Sam was one of them. He was an orphan. He had grown up in a crowded orphanage, reading old books, fixing broken fans, and dreaming of a day he would wear a proper office shirt and sit behind a computer in an air-conditioned room. He had worked hard. He had studied with candlelight. He had gotten into the university. He had graduated with good grades. And yet, after all that, here he was, jobless in a single room that smelled of dust and soap, with only one thin mattress and a small table to prove to himself that he was not still a child in the orphanage. He lay down on the mattress and closed his eyes, trying not to think about the future, about rent, about hunger. Then he heard it. A small sound, like a shoe scraping lightly on the floor outside his door. He opened his eyes and frowned. Maybe it was a cat, or the neighbor's child looking for something. Then he heard it again. A weak, shaky sound, almost like teeth chattering. Sam sat up. Something in his chest tightened. He stood, walked to the door, and placed his hand on the metal handle. For a second he hesitated. The night was not safe. He knew that. But the sound came again, and this time he was sure. Someone was outside his door. He opened it slowly, and his heart stopped. There, curled up on the tiled corridor right in front of his room, lay a girl. She could not have been more than 19. Her blue gown was torn at the hem and stained with mud, like she had fallen many times. Her legs were bare, her feet dirty and scratched. Her hair was rough and scattered around her face, as if someone had dragged her through the ground. Her arms were wrapped around her body, hugging herself tightly. She was shivering. Her teeth were chattering. Sam swallowed. "Hello?" he said softly. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slowly, big, dark, and full of fear. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely there. "Don't let them take me." Sam looked up and down the corridor. It was empty. The other doors were closed. The night outside the building was dark and wide and dangerous. He looked back at her. She did not even have a bag. No phone, no shoes. No idea where she could go. He knew what it meant to have no one. He knew what it meant to be outside. His heart battled with his fear. He was a young man, all alone. If someone saw her in his room, they could say anything. They could think anything. But if he left her there, she could die. He took a deep breath. "Listen," he said gently, "you cannot sleep here. It is too dangerous." Her eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered again. "I don't know where else to go." Something inside Sam broke. He reached out his hand. "Come inside. I will not hurt you, I promise." She stared at his hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, she placed her cold fingers in his. He helped her up. She almost fell, but he caught her. She was lighter than he expected, like someone who had not eaten properly for days. He led her into his room. That night, Sam gave up his bed and slept on the floor. He gave her his duvet. He watched her eyes dart around the room like a scared animal until finally, slowly, they began to close. "Thank you," she murmured. "What is your name?" he asked softly. She frowned, opened her mouth, closed it again. I I don't know," she whispered. A tear slid down her cheek. "I can't remember." Sam's chest tightened. "That is okay," he said gently. "You are safe here. Sleep." He lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, his heart full of questions and fear. He did not know that the decision he made that night to open his door to a stranger would soon bring a billionaire to that same door. And now, standing in front of Anderson, with the door broken and his future hanging by a thread, he had to explain everything. Sam took another breath. "My name is Samuel," he began, voice shaking. "This is what happened the night I found your daughter." Sam stood in front of Anderson, the billionaire whose eyes could silence a room without a single word. Natalia stayed beside her father, clutching his sleeve as if afraid he might vanish if she let go. The morning light from the broken doorway spilled into the small room, making everything feel too real, too tense. Sam's heart pounded as he tried to speak, but before his words found strength, Anderson stepped closer. "Start from the beginning," he said quietly. "No anger, no shouting, just a calm voice filled with a dangerous amount of power." Sam took a slow breath and told him everything. It had rained that evening. The kind of rain that did not just fall, it roared. Water rushed down the streets like small rivers, carrying leaves, dirt, and broken plastic bottles. Sam had run home from the nearby shop after buying a small sachet of milk. It was the only thing he could afford to add to his Gary if hunger got too much. He shook his wet shirt and locked his door behind him. Inside was dark, silent, and a little lonely. The bulb flickered again, but Sam was used to it. He sat on the edge of his thin mattress, counting the last few Naira notes in his wallet. They were not enough. He sighed and closed his eyes. "God, just help me find a job. Any job." But the answer came in a way he never expected. Because that night, he heard someone crying, a soft, broken sound. Not loud enough for the neighbors to hear, but clear enough for someone with Sam's kind of heart. At first, he thought it was the wind. Then the cry came again, shaky, desperate, almost like someone trying not to be heard. He stood up slowly. Who could be outside his door at this hour? Sam gently unlocked the door and cracked it open, and his breath caught. The girl, Natalia, was lying there, curled up like a wounded kitten. Her blue gown was soaked with mud, her hair scattered and tangled, and her bare legs shivered on the cold tiled floor. Her face looked pale, tired, and full of fear. Sam knelt beside her. "Hey, hey, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered, her voice trembled. They were chasing me." "Who?" Sam asked gently. But she didn't answer, she only hugged herself tighter, and in that moment Sam felt something shift inside him. This girl was not pretending, she was not dangerous, she was simply lost. And he knew what it meant to be lost. Sam made a choice that night, one that would change his life. He lifted her lightly and guided her into his room. She was too weak to resist. Her steps were shaky, her breath shallow. He helped her sit on his bed. "I don't have much," he said quietly, "but you can sleep here. I'll take the floor." When he touched her wrist to remove a sharp stone stuck in her sleeve, she flinched so hard he stepped back in fear. "Hey, I won't hurt you," he whispered. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know who I am." That one sentence broke him. Sam had felt lost before, but losing your own name, your own memories. He tucked her into bed, pulled the duvet gently over her, and sat on the floor, watching her tremble with sleep. That was when he realized something else. He wasn't just helping a stranger. He was protecting her. The next morning, Sam woke up early. The girl was still asleep. He left quietly, using the last money he had to buy bread and a small sachet of tea. Was it foolish? Probably, but he couldn't eat knowing she had nothing. When she woke up, she stared at him like a lost child. "Do you remember anything?" he asked. She shook her head. "I don't even remember my name." She looked terrified. Sam wished he could help her more. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe here, I promise." Safe. He used the word even though he didn't know where she came from or who might be looking for her. But he had made a promise to himself. No one would hurt her again. As the days passed, Sam began to notice changes. Natalia's hands shook whenever someone walked by the window. She woke up several times every night, gasping. She clung to the duvet as if it was the last safe thing in her world. Sam cooked for her, gave her water, helped her clean up, and told her stories to distract her from her fear. Slowly she smiled, a small smile but enough to show she was healing. Then, on the second night, she woke up screaming. Sam rushed to the bed. "Hey, hey, wake up, it's okay." She grabbed his arm tightly. "They found me. They are coming. They'll take me again." "Who?" But she didn't know. Her memory was still locked. Sam didn't sleep after that. He stayed awake on the floor, facing the door, like a guard protecting a princess. Everything was calm at first, too calm. Sam was lying on the cold floor, trying to stretch his back when knock, knock, knock. A sharp, quick knock. Not the landlord, not a neighbor. And then, "Break the door." Sam jumped up, eyes wide with fear. Natalia jolted awake. "Sam?" Before he could answer, bam! The door shattered, guards in black stormed in, and behind them, a tall man with sharp eyes and a face full of pain. A man who looked like the world bowed before him. A man who radiated wealth without trying. But the moment he saw Natalia on Sam's bed, sleeping under Sam's duvet, his entire expression changed. "Natalia," he whispered, and in that moment, her memory snapped back like a switch had been flipped. "Daddy." When she ran into his arms, Sam's world tilted. This wasn't just any girl, this wasn't just a stranger. She was the kidnapped daughter of one of the most powerful men in the country, and she had been sleeping in his room. Sam had never felt smaller. Now the billionaire stood inches away from him, waiting for explanations, waiting for truth, waiting to decide Sam's fate. And just when Sam finished telling everything, just when Anderson opened his mouth to respond, Natalia stepped forward, her eyes full of tears, her voice trembling. "Daddy, Sam saved me. If not for him, I would be dead." The guards at the door froze. Anderson's face shifted, but before anyone could speak, someone outside the corridor shouted, "Sir, we found something." Anderson's head snapped up. Sam's heart dropped. Natalia gasped. Another twist was coming, a dangerous one. The moment the guard shouted, the air inside Sam's small room changed. It felt like every wall leaned forward, listening. Natalia froze mid-breath. Sam's heart thudded painfully in his chest. Anderson's eyes sharpened like a blade. The guard stepped into the doorway, holding something in his gloved hands. "Sir, we found this outside." A small, worn-out black cloth bag, dirty, torn, its strap looked like it had been ripped off during a struggle. Natalia's breath caught. Sam swallowed hard. Anderson's voice was low but firm. "Bring it here." The guard handed him the bag. Anderson opened it slowly. Inside were 3 items: a broken wristwatch, a piece of duct tape, a small metal tag with numbers engraved on it. When Natalia saw the metal tag, she gasped. She covered her mouth. Her entire body trembled. That's the tag they used," she whispered, stepping backward. "The kidnappers. They tied it to my wrist when they moved us from one place to another." Sam felt his stomach twist. This wasn't just a lost girl. This wasn't an accident. Someone had been here. Someone had followed her. Maybe they were still watching. Anderson looked at the tag for a long, tense moment. His jaw clenched. His eyes darkened with anger and something deeper, fear. Then he looked at Sam. "You said she was outside your door. Why here? Why this building?" Sam shook his head quickly. "Sir, I don't know. I swear I don't know. I don't know who she is or where she came from. I only saw her lying there cold and shaking. I couldn't leave her outside." Natalia wiped her tears. "Daddy, he's telling the truth." But Anderson did not answer. His mind was already racing. His eyes scanned the room again, observing every detail. Where Sam slept. The untouched loaf of bread. The cheap tin of tea. The bucket of water. The cracked window. He was trying to understand what kind of boy had sheltered his daughter, trying to judge his character, trying to see if Sam was truly innocent. Then Anderson asked the question that shook the room. "Sam, did you see anyone chasing her? Any car? Any sound?" Sam opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Natalia grabbed her head. "I remember something," she whispered shakily. Anderson turned to her instantly. "What is it?" "I remember running. There were two men behind me." Her voice cracked. "They almost caught me. I pushed a wooden door, and it led out to a dark street. I think I ran into a compound." Sam's eyes widened. "That must be this building." She nodded slowly. "Then I saw your door light, the bulb outside, and I ran toward it." She squeezed her arms around herself as if protecting her own memory. "I fell. It hurt. I couldn't move anymore. I slept. I slept because I thought, if they find me, I'd rather not be awake when they do." Her voice shook with the last words. Anderson pulled her close, his face full of pain. "It's okay, baby. You're safe now." But Sam noticed something else. Natalia wasn't the only one shaken. Anderson looked like a man who had almost lost everything in the world. The guards at the door shifted nervously. "Sir, should we search the whole compound?" But Anderson raised a hand. "Not yet." He looked back at Sam. "Why did you not tell anyone you found a girl here?" Sam swallowed. I was scared. I didn't know who she was. She couldn't remember anything. And I didn't want people to lie that I did something bad. I didn't want her to be taken away by strangers again." It was the truth. His voice broke when he said it. Natalia stepped closer to him. Her hand brushed his arm, small, gentle, frightened but grateful. "He didn't hurt me, Daddy," she said softly. "He protected me." Anderson watched her. He watched her protect Sam, and something shifted again in his eyes. Maybe respect, maybe understanding, maybe something deeper that Sam could not read. Then Anderson turned to the guards. "Prepare the car. We are leaving in 5 minutes." They nodded and left. Sam didn't know whether he should feel relieved or terrified. What if Anderson still suspected him? What if this was the last time he ever stepped foot outside his room? Anderson turned back to Sam. "Sam." The way he said it made Sam's heartbeat trip. "Yes, sir?" "What you did was dangerous." Anderson's voice was low, calm, but very serious. "You could have been accused of many things. You could have been attacked. You could have been followed. You could have died." Sam lowered his eyes. "Yes, sir." "But—" Sam looked up. "But you still helped her." Natalia smiled faintly through her tears. Anderson continued, "You gave her your bed. You gave her your food. You slept on the cold floor to protect her. You did all that without knowing who she was." Sam didn't know what to say. His throat tightened. Then Anderson reached into his pocket and brought out a small white card. A business card, but not an ordinary one. "I am Anderson Williams," he said, "CEO of AW Holdings." Sam blinked. He knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Anderson handed him the card. "This is my private number, my house address, my office address. If anyone asks you anything, call me. If you ever need help, call me." Sam stared at the card, stunned. Anderson continued, "The world does not have many people like you. People who help without expecting anything in return. People who protect the vulnerable even when they are suffering." Natalia squeezed her father's hand. "Daddy, he saved my life." Anderson turned to her. "And I will not forget that." Then he looked at Sam again. "You said you are looking for a job." Sam nodded weakly. "Yes, sir." "Tomorrow morning, come to my mansion. You will begin work in my company immediately." Sam's breath caught. His legs felt soft. He almost didn't believe what he heard. But Anderson wasn't finished. He stepped closer, so close Sam could smell the expensive cologne. His voice dropped to a deeper tone. "But know this, Sam." Sam swallowed. "Yes, sir. Whoever kidnapped my daughter is still out there." Sam's entire body froze. Natalia clutched her father's sleeve. "Daddy." Anderson placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's over, baby. You're safe." But his eyes were still sharp. Still hunting, still watching the shadows, he turned back to Sam. "Tell me the truth." His voice was low but heavy. "When you found her, was anyone else around?" Sam hesitated, a small moment, barely a breath, but Anderson noticed. Sam finally answered, "No, but I felt something. Like someone was hiding, like someone ran away when I opened the door." Anderson's eyes narrowed. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Sam whispered. "I didn't see them, but I felt someone was there." The room went cold. Natalia's fingers tightened around her father's hand. Anderson looked at the broken door one last time. "This is not over," he said softly. "Not yet." Before Sam could ask what he meant, the guard ran back again, breathing hard, eyes wide. "Sir," he said, voice shaking, "we found footprints at the back of the compound." Anderson's face hardened. The guard continued, "And they are fresh." Natalia gasped. Sam stepped back. The kidnappers had been here, watching, searching, waiting. And they might come back, right then, right now. The guard's words hung in the air like a freezing wind. Fresh footprints, behind the compound. That meant only one thing. The kidnappers had not given up. They were close. Too close. Natalia clutched her father's arm even tighter. "Daddy, they came back for me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Anderson pulled her close, his face a mixture of anger, fear, and relief that she was standing beside him and not in their hands. His voice went low and firm. "Get her to the car, now." Two guards moved instantly, guiding Natalia carefully through the broken doorway. She looked back at Sam. Their eyes met for a small second. A second filled with fear, gratitude, and something Sam didn't understand yet. He felt his chest tighten as she disappeared down the corridor. Anderson remained inside the room with two senior guards. Sam stood still, not daring to move. "Take me to the back of the compound," Anderson ordered. The guards nodded. "Sam," one of them said sharply, "follow us." Sam felt a shiver run down his spine. Was he a witness or a suspect? Either way, he followed them. They passed through the narrow corridor into the open space behind the building. The early morning sun was just rising, touching the old walls with a pale golden light. One guard pointed. "There, sir." On the wet soil behind the building, the footprints were clear. Two sets, one large, one small, as if someone was dragging another person or chasing them. Sam felt his stomach twist. Had these men stood behind his window while he slept, watching, waiting? Anderson crouched down and studied the footprints carefully. "Fresh," he muttered. "Not more than a few hours." Then he looked up slowly, directly at Sam. Sam's heart dropped. "Are you sure you didn't see anyone that night?" Anderson asked, his voice deadly calm. Sam swallowed hard. I didn't see them, sir, but I felt something, like someone ran when I opened the door." Anderson stood. His eyes were sharp enough to cut through fear. But then, slowly, they softened. "You protected her," he said quietly, "even when danger was close." Sam exhaled shakily. "Search every corner," Anderson ordered the guards. "Every room, every corridor, every gate. They may still be around." "Yes, sir," they responded. The guards moved quickly, spreading out across the entire compound. Sam remained beside Anderson, unsure whether to stay or leave. Then Anderson turned to him. "You're coming with us, for security reasons." Sam blinked. "Me?" "Yes. If they saw her enter your room, they may think you're involved. Or they may try to harm you too." Sam's breath caught. He hadn't thought about that. But Anderson was right. If the kidnappers suspected Sam helped Natalia escape, he was now a target. "Get in the car," Anderson said. Sam nodded and followed. The security SUV was large and intimidating. Sam sat in the middle, between two guards. He looked small compared to their large bodies and black uniforms. Up front, Natalia sat beside her father, wrapped in a soft blanket one of the guards had given her. Her hair was still rough, her face still tired, but her eyes, they kept turning back toward Sam. Every few seconds, every moment she felt brave enough to look. Sam looked away each time. He felt too overwhelmed to meet her gaze. Was this all real? Was he truly riding in the same car as a billionaire and his daughter? Was this the same girl he fed bread and tea? The same girl who slept in his small room? The same girl he gave his only duvet while he slept on the cold floor? The SUV finally stopped. Sam looked out the window and froze. The mansion was huge, like something from a movie. Tall gates, white pillars, glass windows, a fountain in the front lawn. Guards patrolled the area with trained dogs. Sam had never seen anything like it in his life. He stepped out carefully, afraid his worn shoes might stain the tiles. Natalia walked toward him, her voice soft, shaky, but warm. Sam. He looked up slowly. "Thank you," she said, her eyes filled with emotion. "For everything." Sam opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, "Inside," Anderson said. "We need to talk." Natalia stepped aside as her father guided Sam toward the mansion doors. But just as Sam entered, a tall, stern-looking woman with braided hair and a sharp uniform walked out of a side hallway, whispering urgently to one of the guards. Sam heard two words that made his heart pound again. "They're close." Natalia heard it too. Her eyes widened. Anderson stopped walking. His whole body stiffened. "Who is close?" he demanded. The guard turned slowly. "Sir, the kidnapper's car was seen on the main road, less than 10 minutes from here." Natalia gasped. Sam's heart nearly stopped. Anderson's face darkened. "Lock down the house. Nobody leaves. Nobody enters." Guards raced into action. Doors slammed. Lights flickered red. Security alarms activated silently. Sam felt a cold wave wash over him. They weren't safe, not yet. And somehow, he was in the middle of it. But the guard wasn't done. He took a breath. "Sir, we think they were looking for the girl and the boy." Sam stepped back. "Me? Why would they want me?" The guard hesitated. "We found another footprint at the back, separate from the others." "And?" Anderson asked sharply. The guard exhaled. "It matches Sam's shoes." Sam froze. Natalia turned sharply toward him. "Sam?" Anderson's eyes narrowed. The air grew still. Everyone looked at Sam. Why were his footprints with the kidnappers? Was he in danger? Was he being framed? Was someone watching him? Sam opened his mouth, but no words came out. Because he didn't know the answer. Not yet. And everyone waited, staring at him, silent, suspicious. Afraid. For a long moment, nobody moved. Not the guards, not Anderson, not even Natalia. All eyes stayed locked on Sam, the boy who had slept on a cold floor one night and woke up in the middle of a billionaire's emergency lockdown the next. Sam felt his breath catch in his throat. Footprints? Matching his shoes, near the kidnapper's trail. He shook his head slowly, barely finding his voice. "Sir, I don't understand. I don't even go to the back of the compound. I stay in my room most of the time. You can ask my neighbors." The guard didn't reply. He only looked at Anderson, waiting for instructions. Natalia stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she spoke firmly. "Daddy, Sam didn't do anything wrong. Please don't think he did." Anderson raised a hand gently toward her. "I know, sweetheart. But let him speak." Sam swallowed hard. The room felt colder, tighter, as if invisible walls were closing in on him. He had never been this afraid in his life, not even as a hungry orphan walking unsafe streets at night. But he took a small breath and forced himself to talk. "Sir, the only time I went behind the compound was 2 days ago. I left clothes on the line there. My shoes, they probably left marks." The head guard nodded slowly. "That makes sense, sir. Rain washed away most prints, except newer ones." Anderson let out a slow exhale. Some tension left his shoulders. Sam felt his own chest loosen just a little, but only for a moment. Because the guard wasn't done. "Sir," he added, lowering his voice, "there's something else you need to see." He handed a small object to Anderson, a phone, cracked, dirty, almost dead. Natalia gasped. "That looks like the phone the kidnappers used to record us." Sam felt a shiver climb his spine. Recording? Of what? Anderson pressed the power button. The phone flickered. A video icon appeared. He tapped it. The room went silent. Then, A grainy video filled the screen, a dim warehouse, 3 masked men, and a shaking figure tied to a chair. Natalia, her hands bound, her clothes dirty, her entire body weak and afraid. One of the kidnappers pointed at her and shouted, "Her father will pay." The video shook as if the cameraman was breathing fast. Someone behind the camera whispered, "If she escapes again, follow her. Don't lose her like last time." The last time, the escape, the chase through the dark street, her collapse outside Sam's door, it all matched. Natalia covered her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. Sam felt sick watching it. He clenched his fists without realizing. Anderson's face changed completely. Pain replaced fear. Rage replaced confusion. This was a father watching the moment his child almost died. He turned to Sam with eyes that were no longer filled with doubt, but gratitude. "You protected her," Anderson said, voice thick but steady. "When she was at her weakest, you protected her." Sam lowered his head. "I only did what anyone with a heart would do." "No," Anderson said quietly, "not everyone would have done that." Natalia stepped closer to Sam, wiping her tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Again. That morning, after hours of questioning, searching, and clearing suspicion, Anderson gave his final instruction. "No one touches this boy. No one questions him again. He is under my protection." The guards nodded firmly. When the lockdown lifted, Anderson walked Sam out to the mansion's garden. Birds sang. Water splashed softly from a marble fountain. It was peaceful, so different from Sam's tiny room back in the compound. "So," Anderson said, turning to him, "about the job." Sam blinked. He had almost forgotten. Everything felt too big, too fast, too unreal. Anderson smiled. "You start today. You will train as a junior data analyst in my company. Your salary will be taken care of. I'll assign mentors, and if you work hard, you'll grow." Sam's mouth opened slowly. He didn't know if he was dreaming. "Sir, why me? There are many people who deserve this more." Anderson placed a hand on his shoulder. "Because you did the right thing when no one was watching." The next day, Sam dressed in the best shirt he owned, ironed 3 times until he burned his finger. He arrived at the mansion shaking, but the moment he stepped into the front courtyard, Natalia was there, smiling, healthy, beautiful, her hair washed and styled, her gown clean and elegant. "You're here," she said warmly. Sam smiled shyly. "Yes, I'm here." Anderson soon joined them and personally drove Sam to the company headquarters, a giant building made of glass and steel. Inside the office, Sam received his ID card, his desk, his computer, his training schedule. People shook his hand. Managers welcomed him. Anderson introduced him proudly as the young man who helped his daughter in her darkest moment. Sam had never felt valued like this, never felt seen, never felt important. As the months passed, Sam grew in the company. He worked hard, stayed late, learned fast. Natalia visited often, sometimes pretending it was to pick up something from her father, but she always found a way to see Sam. Lunch breaks together, evening walks, shared laughter. Slowly, something soft grew between them. Something real. Anderson noticed. He didn't stop it. He didn't warn them. In his heart, he trusted Sam, and he trusted Natalia's heart. It was 3 years later. Sam had become a full data analyst. Natalia had graduated from university and joined her father's company. One evening, after a late office meeting, Sam took Natalia to the rooftop garden. The sunset painted the sky gold, lights sparkled below the city. Natalia turned to him. "Sam, why are we here?" He took a slow breath, the same breath he took the night he first found her. "Because this is where my whole life changed." He knelt. Natalia gasped. Sam's voice shook. "Natalia, you were a stranger who became my friend, then my hope, then my heart. Will you marry me?" Her tears fell instantly. A soft, trembling smile spread across her face. "Yes, Sam," she whispered. "Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger. She threw her arms around him, and in that moment, the boy who once slept on a cold floor found a home in her embrace. A few months later, the world watched as Anderson Williams walked his daughter down the aisle. People whispered, "That's the man who saved her." That's the boy who became a hero. That's the orphan who became part of a billionaire family. Sam stood at the altar, tears in his eyes. Natalia walked toward him, radiant and glowing. Anderson placed her hand in Sam's and smiled. "Take care of my daughter," he said softly. "You already proved you can." Sam nodded. "I will. Always." Everyone clapped when Natalia shared her story, the night she escaped, the stranger who saved her, the love that grew from kindness. Sam and Natalia welcomed a baby boy. They named him Nicholas. And sometimes, when Sam carried his son in his arms, he whispered softly, "I once opened my door to save someone. And that night, God opened the world for me." The boy who once slept on the floor became a father, a husband, a respected analyst, and a permanent part of a billionaire's family. All because one cold night, he chose kindness. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.